Welcome everybody, this is video number 96. This is going to be tides part 1. So what are tides? Not my favorite laundry detergent, although it's very good for getting out stains on horse blankets. It's considered the rise and fall of the ocean. So if you're looking for a definition, there you go. So what's the time cycle of the tides? Well, the water rises and falls about every 6 hours. So when you want a high tide and a low tide, it's about 12.5 hours for that cycle to happen. Okay, so what you're seeing here, this is a picture of high tide, and let's take a look at it at low tide. So big difference between these two pictures, between high and low tide. I love how this one is showing you the boat right on the ground. So I've got a couple more for you here. This is low tide on the top that you're looking at, and high tide on the bottom. And then my favorite one, I love it because you can see the guy walking on the ground over here on the right and the boat sitting on the ground, and then on the left they're all underwater. Alright, so what are the tides caused by? Well, they're caused by the changes or the differences in the moon's gravitational pull on Earth. So it's really all due to the moon and its pulling. Remember we talked about gravity and we talked about how that pull happens. Alright, here's a quick animation. Hope you enjoy.
The moon's gravity, strong enough to cause our oceans to rise and fall, keeps it tidally locked to the Earth.
Tides, the up and down movement of the oceans, are a result of three main forces: the influence of the moon, of the sun, and the rotation of the Earth. The Earth and the moon are mutually attracted by a gravitational pull. But inevitably, the point on the Earth furthest from the moon is less drawn than the point closest to it. Thus, the gravitational force has an effect of stretching the Earth, causing the sphere to deform and the waters of the oceans to produce twin tidal bulges, or static tides. The sun is the same, but because of its considerably greater distance from the Earth, the influence is only half as great as that of the moon. If the Earth, moon, and the sun are in alignment, the effects are multiplied, and it is then that the highest tides, the spring tides, occur. But if the Earth, sun, and the moon are at right angles, their effects counter each other and produce the low neap tides. All this is, however, influenced by the rotation of the Earth, whose main effect is on the time and place the tides occur. Thus, waves form on the ocean surface of varying heights.
I hope you enjoyed that. So here we go. Let's talk about Sir Isaac Newton. You know, the guy with the apple that clonked him on his head? Yeah, he was a physicist and a math guy, but he was really the first one to explain tides scientifically. Another thing that he came up with, I know which we just talked about like in video 47, was the reflector telescope. So let's talk about the high tides. So the moon gravity caused high tides on the side of the Earth closest to the moon, so it's pulling it. And you can see that in the diagram here on the light blue is showing you that's the high tide. The moon's gravity, because water flows easily, the effect of moon's gravity on Earth is greater than on the solid Earth. So this is to answer the question a lot of my students ask, well, if it's pulling the water, why doesn't it pull the Earth as well? And remember, it's that whole solid liquid thing that we talked about back in chemistry. So at any one time on Earth, and as you heard in the animation I showed you there are two high tides on Earth and two low tides on Earth at any one time. And that's what this diagram is showing you. So the Earth rotates, and this leaves one high tide facing the moon and the second high tide on the opposite. And if you were to turn around one whole time, this whole cycle completes about every 25 hours, so just about every day. So the times of the tides are not exactly 12 hours between because the moon revolves around Earth while we continue to rotate. So remember, everything is in position to everything else, and as everything is moving, it's not always going to do so in sort of a very nice and neat fashion for us. So low tides occur between the high tides. It's considered to be the water that's left behind due to there's no more pull of that gravity because the moon's not there. So actually the sun comes in and plays a part in tides, and a lot of times people tell me, oh, Mrs. Burke, the tides are just made by the moon. Well, actually the sun has a part in that as well. The sun's effect is half than the moon's, but that's because the sun is so far away. Alright, summary time. I want you to define tides and then answer what causes tides on Earth. How often do high and low tides occur? And who was Isaac Newton and what did he contribute to astronomy besides being part of my old dead dude club? As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in class.